So a little while back, I did a video on dip toning, and this is the process of diluting a direct dye in water and dipping hair into it in order to get a really even and saturated effect. People do this with purple shampoo, with vivid colors, things like Pulp Riot, Manic Panic, that sort of thing. And I explained the science behind kind of how that works in that video. So if you haven't seen it and you're interested after this video, go check it out. But I do have several clients interested in lock extensions, pre-locked from an online retailer. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of the retailer, but I'll write it down for you. And if you've ever colored locks before, you know that they absorb a ton of color. You feel like you've got to use like a whole tube of color on every single strand. And so I thought dip toning would be the perfect way to color these, at least with direct dyes. That's what I'm going to try today. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, or you want to hear my evaluation on these particular brand of locks, then stick around. Thanks as always for liking, sharing, subscribing, all of those things. It's a small action from you that makes a big difference for me. So thank you for pushing the buttons. My first impression of these locks is they're pretty decent. They're a little on the fuzzy side, but they can be cleaned up. And I'm not that concerned with currently how fuzzy they are. I think they can mature into something softer. The rubber bands are just there to keep it clean and to keep the loop accessible. Rubber bands will come off before installation, and these can either be temporarily installed or permanently installed. I've already chopped some of them up and locked them back together with a crochet needle, and pretty satisfied with the quality. What I'm going to do today is a direct comparison between just applying the same amount of color on a lock as I put in my dilute solution. You want your hair to be damp when you go to apply it. So first thing you'd need to do is shampoo them. And that's what I wanted to do to check these out, is see how they were. And they got a little bit fuzzier, but that can still be cleaned up. And as long as they're still feeling like the integrity of the lock is there, I'm feeling pretty good about their quality. So when it comes to, this is the So Color Cult Royal Purple. So this is a very dark purple. I really wanted to see how much deposit I could get out of these. Direct dyes typically come in 4-ounce tubes. And if somebody had a whole head of these extensions, I could see it taking like 5 or 6 tubes of this color. My hope is that I can get more efficiency out of my color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh out a 1/2 ounce of this color and see if I can get an entire lock covered with a 1/2 ounce of color. Hopefully should be able to. I'm also going to put 1/2 ounce of color in some water and see how deeply I can deposit the color here. So I said 1/2 ounce. Let's go with 15 grams. I've got my scale set on grams. 15 grams of color. Just add a little bit of water first. It's a lot easier to break everything up and get it really smooth and well mixed with a small amount of water first. And once you've got a nice smooth mixture, maybe we can zoom in and get a look at that. Just making sure there's no chunks. Once I've got a nice smooth mixture, then I can add more water and I'll feel like the color has been well incorporated. Even though I'm coloring this in a foil, I still want to make sure that the hair is damp. It's a myth that using direct dyes on dry hair makes them last longer. It just uses way more color. The water actually helps the color get in there and you get a more even distribution. So we'll start down here. Now this is the part that I want you to pay attention to. Right now, I am just painting the outside of the lock. If I want this to take evenly and nicely and intensely, I have now got to get in there and squeeze that color through. Anytime you're coloring locks, still want to be respectful of the integrity of the hair. So I'm not doing like big, crazy, messy motions, but you are going to squeeze, and wring that color in there. That entire lock took 15 grams of color. An entire tube of this might cover 8 locks. That's it, an entire tube, 8 locks. And now let's take a look at the dip tone. Damp hair, we're just gonna dip it in. Swirl it a bit, and like that, we've got full saturation. Of course, for more intense results, you wanna leave it longer. I'm going to let this process for literally the same amount of time that I let that one process. The fact that one of these, maybe it's just because it didn't sit in as long. You can see this is the second lock that I put in. It's still nicely saturated. Looking for blank spots. I really don't see any. I didn't even try to work it in that hard. It definitely seems darker on the end, but the dip toning was absolutely effective with the pre-made lock extensions. If I compare them side by side, oh, you know, I thought that the hand-painted one was deeper and richer, and I don't know if the camera can pick this up. I feel like, you know, on some angles, I feel like the dip toning was more effective, and on some angles, I feel like the hand painting was more effective, but honestly, really, really close. I think 15 grams was almost enough for both lock extensions though. So I was able to, and if this one would have sat a little longer, I think there's enough pigment in here that it would have worked. So really I got about double the effectiveness with my dip toning than with just painting with a brush. And it was a lot faster too. I think we had said earlier, this is 15 grams. A tube of color should be like 120 grams, approximately 120 grams, which means that you're gonna get like 8 locks out of a tube of color if you're hand painting them. And in this case, I would get 16 locks out of a tube of color if I were dip toning them. Twice as efficient with my color. And I do really think we were right on the edge. I don't think a third lock would have been effective. Way more efficient. I think the coverage is good. Overall, I'm happy. We'll see over time how these locks wear out after we install. If you've tried this method on locks, I would love to hear from you. Let me know how it went for you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.